The PCMHA for Lake Melville had interesting things to say earlier this week about some of the people protesting the development of Muskrat Falls. Here's what Keith Russell told Patty Daly on VOCM's Back Talk on Tuesday.
It certainly is the flavor of the month. Everybody's got their own agenda as to why it should or should not be developed. But what you're seeing here, especially up in Labrador, Patty, is people who have never been there, have never had any historical ties to this site, who have never had any family that ever hunted or trapped remotely close to the area. Everybody's getting their picture took. Everybody's talking about their ancestors. I don't know. I just find it, it's nice to be concerned about the land. It sure is. But now this is the opportune time, if you will, for people to jump on the bandwagon and claim to want to be part of the environmental movement to see this project stop, which to me is just, it's silly.
That's MHA's Keith Russell speaking on VOCM on Tuesday. Keith is in the studio with me this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Colleen. How are you?
Thanks so much for coming in.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So I assume that those comments you're referring to is the recent protest that the Friends of Grand River had over the weekend there. So what is your problem with that protest?
Well, it's not that particular protest at all, Colleen. And I mean, that really is something that doesn't really show up on my radar. The fact that 4 people made it on CBC on the news is one thing. And that was the basis of my comment, I guess, was that just a little earlier we had $1 million equipment announcement at Lab Grenfell Health and 0 coverage. And yet 4 people can throw together an impromptu protest, and there they are in here now in the evening.
So let's talk about your comments on VOCM. What exactly were you referring to? Who were you referring to?
Well, it's what you're seeing in general right now. You've got a lot of people. I mean, no matter what the development is, you're going to have people that are for it or against it. And I guess what we're seeing now is that, people claim to be part of some grassroots type movement where they want to stop all development to save these rivers. And you have people talking about Mother Earth and sacred waters and, spirits flowing through these rivers. And that's all well and good. But, people have to understand, too, that there is a need for this development. We do need this power, and that this is a resource. I don't buy into the mumbo-jumbo about, the trail leading to the Muskrat Falls site as being sacred ground, and you can romanticize and sensationalize that particular piece of land all you want, but it is a resource.
Are you saying that people with any historical connection to the site don't have the right to protest?
Oh, no, goodness, no. And I encourage protesting. I always have my entire life. I mean, as an Aboriginal person myself, I was raised with a sense of responsibility towards the land as well, and I certainly still have that to this day. What I will not do is tug on the heartstrings of people to try and get my own agenda across or to raise my own profile. If you're talking about environmentalism, well then, you stick to that topic when you're referring to Muskrat Falls, because we've got people talking about, who claim to be part of that, like I said, that grassroots environmental movement, when they give a 10-second blurb to environmentalism, and then they're talking about reports and pocketbooks, how we're all going to be struck by this project, and how the alternatives are better suited for our energy needs in this province. And that's simply, it's people using their own, they're looking out for their own agenda. Simple as that. They're trying to raise their own profile on the backs of this because, like I said before, Colleen, it's the opportune time. You're seeing lawyers and past politicians and everybody from all walks of life coming in now because this is the most important, I guess, pivotal point in our province in terms of our energy plan for the next several generations, how we move forward from today. The limelight is on. People are focused on this project, this district of Lake Melville, and a lot of people are getting a lot of airtime because of it.
It is certainly a hot topic. So who, in your view, can credibly protest this development? What's your view, for example, of Elizabeth Panashway?
Mrs. Panashway could certainly protest. Anybody can protest. I'm not saying you've got to be born and raised here and an Aboriginal person, 100% Aboriginal person, and you've got to be living adjacent to that river. I'm not saying that. I welcome anybody to protest. Anybody, whether you're Innu, Métis, you're a beneficiary of the Nunatsiavut land claim, you're welcome to protest. I got no problem with that. But don't make it sound, and I can't say don't, but I mean, what tickles me the wrong way is just when people start to they start to put their own agenda ahead of the facts and the figures about the development, and they start talking about, like I said before, they start to romanticize the thing and talk about ancestors and all of those things. As an Aboriginal person who has grown up and was born and raised here next to the resource, I'm sorry, we just never talked about that particular location as this giant piece of sacred ground that must not be disturbed because of our ancestors. I don't buy that, and when somebody comes to try and sell you that, just be wary.
You seem to be saying that some protesters aren't credible or they shouldn't be taken seriously. Why not?
You have to. For me, I mean, I'll give you an example. For me, if you're really concerned about environmentalism, well then do your homework and make your case in an intelligent way about the environmental facts surrounding the case. If you're going to use that as the guise to further your own agenda and become a politician, well then, people have to be weary of what your motives are. I mean, we don't. I just think that people now are. This is the opportune time, like I said, Colleen. People are trying to get out there. They don't want to talk about the fact that we need the power and that we have so much industrial development in Labrador that will need additional power. They don't want to talk about the $1.4 billion that this project is going to generate, or the 2,700 jobs here in our district at Peak in Lake Melville. These are wonderful things that are going to happen as a result of this project. Not even to mention, Colleen, the fact that the byproducts of mega projects in terms of how we affect the social issues in our district. This will be a wonderful time for the people of Lake Melville. I mean, we'll be able to see things like recreation and services for our youth and our elders as a result of this project in and of itself.
Now, there's a good chance there's going to be more protests as this project goes on, as it gets closer to sanction. So how will the government respond to those protests as they continue?
Yeah, this wasn't a government response to protests. I mean, there's nothing wrong with people protesting. I really, I've been part of protests, way back when something tickled me the right way as well. This is not the government saying that you can't protest. This is Keith Russell saying, be wary of people that are furthering their own agenda. Know who they're connected to. Know which, maybe it's a political party, maybe it's another group. Be wary of what people are trying to sell you, especially when they're tugging on your heartstring, Colleen, and they're starting to talk about spiritual items when referring to the land. And look, I have nothing wrong with people of Aboriginal descent or otherwise claiming to have a spiritual connection to the land, because I've myself have felt some very powerful emotions while being, in the country and out on the water and all that stuff.
I'm sorry, Keith, but we've run out of time here this morning. I want to thank you very much for coming in the studio with me.
My pleasure, Colleen.
That's MHA Keith Russell there speaking with us here on Labrador Morning.